How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. This is from the year 2000. It was directed by Joe Berlinger and stars Jeff Donovan, who you guys may know from Burn Notice. It also stars Leerhsen and Kim Director. Now, I will say, for doing this review, this was only my second time I had seen this movie. And I remember the first time I watched it, I didn't really get it. I came away thinking, that was weird, that wasn't what I was expecting. And when I knew I was going to rewatch these movies for this series of reviews, I was like, okay, I'm not too excited going into this one. However, when I put it on, I was pleasantly surprised. This movie is way better than I remember it being, and I honestly really liked it this time around. The way you get these characters, put them in this weird, surreal setting, and bottle things up as you start to question reality, plus the way it reacts to the first movie and its cultural impact, there's a lot of energy and a lot going on here and a lot to take in. But I think that initial viewing, I didn't like it because I had no way to expect a movie like this. I mean, the original, the Blair Witch Project, that was subtle and realistic. And the sequel is over the top. It's a surrealist party movie. It's very, very different. And honestly, I think maybe the best way to experience this is to watch it once just to kind of rip the band-aid off and then give it some time and then watch it again to actually take it in, which I don't know what that says about the movie itself per se, but I do think if you guys have only seen this once, go in knowing what to expect and try giving it a rewatch because you might like it a whole lot better the second time around. And honestly, I looked up when I was doing stuff for this review, some research. I found that this does have a pretty good cult following nowadays, and I really am glad for it because even though I am part of me's really sad it wasn't a found footage movie, I do get that if we had made a direct, kind of rehash of the first, we may have got 12, 13 Blair Witch movies, but they would have probably been derivative. I do appreciate this movie for trying something different, and I think a lot of its ideas are really interesting, but yeah, it was just the first time I saw it, it was a whole lot to take in. And I think an interesting thought with this is like Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. It went really different than its predecessors, and a lot of people just said if it was only Season of the Witch and not a Halloween movie, it would have been a lot better. And you could almost say that for this one, except for the way it reacts so directly to the first Blair Witch movie. The way it talks about the reaction of people and how people didn't know if it was real, and the way all the characters have their own take on it. And then plus, it does pay attention to the lore itself, and it does add some interesting pieces. So even though this doesn't feel like Blair Witch, it is very much the world of Blair Witch. And I guess maybe the better way is if you imagine this as a Blair Witch spin-off rather than a direct sequel. I don't know. I'm just saying it's got some good ideas, but it is very different, and give it a rewatch if you haven't. I did, in retrospect, like the atmosphere, and on a second viewing, I wound up really appreciating this movie, so definitely check it out, just know what you're getting in for. I guess in order to analyze this a little further, I do want to talk a bit about the plot. I'll be avoiding the end bits, so no major spoilers, but I do want to break down and analyze a few things and dig in a little bit. So without further ado, what's the movie about? We open up with a block of text that explains this is a reenactment of actual events, which if you're giving up the found footage style, but still want to keep it within the world of the first movie, a reenactment, that's a logical way to go. I like that we're doing that. And I will say, if you guys like the reenactment angle, definitely check out the Milla Jovovich movie, The Fourth Kind. It does the same thing, but more believable as a reenactment movie. Anyway, we then jump in to the town of Burkittsville after the first Blair Witch movie. People are definitely responding to it, and this small town is suddenly flooded with a bunch of Blair Witch fans. Some people like the tourism and are quick to make a buck off of it. You get people selling stickmen, selling dirt, which to this day, I believe you can actually buy dirt from the Blair Witch Cemetery, not from the plots itself, but the acreage in the back. But yeah, it was a big industry back in the day. But you also get people saying, why'd they have to set their movie here? You get people that don't believe it was real and hate the fact that all these strangers are coming in and messing with their quiet lives. And also, yeah, people in this universe don't know if the movie was real or not. So I guess the stars of the movie never went on late night TV in this world, but I like the idea of getting the footage and not knowing if it was just a movie or if it wasn't. That's pretty cool. And I also like that they react to the first one. To be honest, that was one of my problems with the Paranormal Activity sequels, is no one in them has seen Paranormal Activity. Like Paranormal Activity 4, Katie shows up and there's a young teenage girl in that movie, and I'm like, how did this girl not know about Paranormal Activity? How did she not recognize Katie? Whatever. Props to the reaction and commentary. And I do want to say, also extending in the commentary, is our cast of characters. Jeff, the main guy, runs the Blair Witch Hunt. He had been doing things. He had been one of those guys who sold dirt and stickmen online, but now he's trying to start up a tour business, taking people to the actual Blair Witch sites, and joining him on this crew are 4 people. The first 2 are authors of a book on the Blair Witch. One of them doesn't believe it, and the other does, at least on maybe some metaphorical level, and the 2 get into a back and forth, but in the intellectual sense. You also get a Wicca in this movie, and she does not like how people perceive witchcraft and feels that after the Blair Witch, her people were victimized. And then you get the last person, Kim, who is a goth girl who doesn't believe but thought the movie was cool, and now she wants to see the sights. So each one has their own perspective. I will say there's this subplot where the goth girl gets visions, and I always thought that was strange they didn't give that to the magical character, but whatever. We got 4 different personalities, so we know they're going to clash with each other in interesting ways later on. Anyway, they go to the cabin, or rather the remains of the cabin, where they found Heather's footage. And I love that detail. I love seeing where the footage was found. That's really cool. They go there and they're gonna spend the night. Their goal is to stay up all night and party all night and maybe see if they catch something. So there's drugs and alcohol, and they wake up passed out the next day, which honestly, that would be expected, you know? You do a big party, you pass out, it makes sense. Except for everything's destroyed. Something happened in the middle of the night, and they all have a block of a few hours of missing time. And, you know, you get all Jeff's equipment is all smashed up, but you also get the notes from the writers of the book, and they're all messed up, and they lost a lot of their work, which, to be honest, not backing it up on a computer, I get this was the year 2000, but they say, yeah, a lot of that was our only copy, and I'm like, then don't bring it into the woods. And they even say some of it was original documents, and I'm like, why did you bring that in the woods? So anyway, after they lost time and after a lot of their stuff is destroyed, the group's noticeably ticked, but they do have their footage, and that leads into one of my favorite elements. They're going to go into Jeff's house and study the footage, and I feel that this is something in found footage that doesn't get talked about a lot, is the editor, because if you have a found footage movie, someone had to look over the tapes, study stuff, and find the interesting little details, and I do like that we get the characters combing over all these tapes. It's an interesting mystery element. But also, going to Jeff's house and seeing Jeff as a character? Jeff is a really interesting character. I mean, his character is told through his house. He lives in an abandoned factory that he bought for $1 because they were going to destroy it. It's big, and he's decorated it with all these weird things that he's found, and there's like a bridge going over a moat for some reason. That doesn't make sense, but feels surreal. And we even get like, you open the door and it plays a tape of dogs barking to scare people off. He lives in a very odd, surrealist house, and we also get with his character, he was in an institution, but you never know if he had real problems or maybe he just didn't jive with the way the world works, because he always seems like an outsider and he always seems like someone who's trying to strike it on his own and just trying to survive. And then when you get where he's selling all this Blair Witch stuff, you get to see the table where he builds his stickmen, and you get to see he has piles of electronics he's trying to sell on eBay. You really get that this guy is a kind of scrapper character that has to make a quick buck just trying to survive, and he is a really interesting big personality. But again, the others are pretty interesting personalities as well, and when you put all of them in the room, spending hours, staying the nights, and combing over these tapes, and then mysterious stuff starts to happen, yeah, we're turning on the flames and things are starting to heat up, and it does become a bit of a pressure cooker. It does become a journey into insanity movie, and it really does. You start to question everything. I wish there was, I don't know, a little bit more you could do, because it does feel like once you start to question reality, just whatever the Blair Witch wants to happen happens. So I do wish there was a little more room to maneuver and plot in this, but whatever. I do like this journey the characters go on, and I love how surreal it gets. Now, before we get out, I should note that there was a bit of a feud where the studio kept trying to make the director make it into more of a standard horror movie, and I hear about the things he changed, like Good Bad Flicks did a whole video on it exploring Book of Shadows, and he has some really interesting stuff in there, but there are things in here, there's like misplaced interview sequences that really kind of befuddle the movie a little bit, and there's also shaky edit scares, which aren't the best. And we are coming up on the 25th anniversary, so maybe we'll get a director's cut sometime soon. That would be nice. And I would absolutely love if we could actually get the director's cut of this movie, because I am curious how much better it would be. It would still be very different, but maybe there is something even better there. But as I said, go into this movie knowing what it is, and it still might be a bit of a shock, but it still is a lot better than people thought it was upon initial release, and I can appreciate it, even if it is kind of off at a few times, especially because of the studio edit. Anyway though, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more videos kind of like this, you can find them there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Playlist here. Have a good day now.